Hello, I am Ajit Jha, CEO of Power Pixar channel. And in the public global program this evening, we are going to focus on this mega bill that has been moved as a resolution in Parliament in both the houses. One nation, one election. That's going to be our major focus today. Um what is the idea? Why was it introduced in the parliament in this session? Although the ruling party, the BJP and the NDA, they knew that they did not have the numbers. They knew that they will not be able to pass the bill, especially in the upper house, in the Rajya Sabha, given the fact that they don't have the numbers. And for a constitutional amendment, you actually need a special majority, not merely a simple majority. So the BJP and the BJP-led NDA was aware of that, and despite that, they introduced it in the parliament. Now, one of the arguments made by the critics is that the reason they introduced it is because of the great hullabaloo created around Home Minister Amit Shah when he went ahead and what the Congress Party and India Alliance claims, he disrespected the father of the Constituent Assembly, Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Yeah, that remark that he made, Ambedkar, 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 Ambedkar. The Congress benches, the Congress Party keeps repeating his name, but if they were to repeat the name of God so many times, they would have been in seventh heaven. That remark created such a furor in parliament and outside on the streets, in the country as a whole. It went kind of berserk on social media, on television screens, that it seemed the BJP needed it. Instead of apologizing, the BJP wanted to replace it with something else. So they tried two formula. One was introducing the one nation, one election, knowing that they will not be able to pass it. And by the way, 20 MPs, including ministers of the BJP, did not turn out to vote for the bill. For example, people like Giriraj Singh, um, several other important leaders, even Gadkari ji, and even Jyotiraditya Scindia, these MPs did not turn out to vote for the bill, which was supposed to be the most important bill of the BJP. Of course, the BJP claims that they will send letters to them, show cause notice, but they went ahead and introduced it. And finally, what happened is they handed it over to a joint parliamentary committee, which is headed by former Law Minister P.P. Chaudhary, who's a third-time MP from Rajasthan and from Pali, from Pali constituency. And he has been a Supreme Court senior lawyer, and he specializes in constitutional matters. Now, initially, they had only put 31 MPs in the Joint Parliamentary Committee, in the JPC. But later on, they went and extended the numbers to 39 MPs, saying that they wanted representation from the various states, and they also wanted to give representation to the various political parties. Out of 39, 22 MPs are from the NDA, out of which 16 are from the BJP. Given the fact that they have the maximum numbers, they end up getting the largest share in the JPC. So 16 BJP MPs, 1 JDU, 1 RLD, 1 TDP, 1 Shiv Sena, 1 LJSP, and so on and so forth. From the opposition, there are basically 15 MPs. And from that 15 MPs, the Congress ends up getting 5 MPs. One of them is, of course, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. The second one is Manish Tiwari. Third one is Sukhdev Bhagat, and so on and so forth. They have only 5 MPs anyway. 2 of them are from Trinamool Congress, 2 from Samajwadi Party, and 1 from Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray group, 1 from NCP Sharad Pawar group, 1 from CPM, 1 from AAP, and so on and so forth. So basically that is the representation, and the idea is to reintroduce the bill in the next session, the first day apparently of the last week of the next session. So these 39 MPs will get a chance to discuss the bill. Now let's look at a bit of a history of the bill. Well, number one, it's not for the first time that this has been discussed. In fact, several commission reports in the past have discussed this bill threadbare. In fact, as far back as 2002, when we had Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government, the NDA government led by former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, we had the Venkat Chalaiya Commission, which was in the year 2002, which discussed the entire sort of idea. Then later on in 2015, after Modi ji came to power in 2014, the Natshiappan Commission was set up again to discuss the bill threadbare. Former President Pranab Mukherjee actually initiated it on Teachers' Day of September 5, 2016. And 2 days later, that is September 7 of 2016, the Modi government initiated a national government in the MyGov web portal, and that was open to the public for a while to respond to it. Now, historically, what has been the situation? In the first 4 elections, if we see, right after India became independent, 1952 was the first Lok Sabha election, 1957, 5 years later, 1962, the third election, and 1967, the fourth election. All the 4 were held concurrently. The Lok Sabha election and the state assembly polls were basically held simultaneously at the same time. And what had happened, look at it, the political upshot of that. Congress had basically swept 3 of them, 1952, 57, 1962. Jawaharlal Nehru was the prime minister. The Congress swept the Lok Sabha as well as the state assembly polls, with 1 or 2 exceptions. Kerala, they had the CPI had once come to power, and JNK and whatever. So, but basically the Congress had swept almost all the assembly elections and the Lok Sabha. Now, that is one of the reasons why the Modi government seems so keen on passing this bill, although the pretext is that it will reduce costs enormously, which is perhaps true because parliamentary elections cost a huge amount of money, and so does assembly polls, and holding them separately perhaps add to the cost, no doubt about it. But the main reason seems to be political. The idea is that if Lok Sabha and simultaneously the assembly elections polls can be held together in this one nation, one election sort of idea, then there will be, it will help the BJP to sweep the Lok Sabha and the various assembly elections. Look at the country right now. The BJP, which has won 3 consecutive elections, 2014, 2019, and 2024, although the 2024 victory was not as massive as 2014 and 2019, but at least Prime Minister Modi managed to become the Prime Minister. Now, the assembly elections, BJP has lost quite a few, won quite a few. In fact, the BJP is in power in almost about half the states, sometimes directly, sometimes with allies. Like in Bihar, for example, they are in power with JDU. In the recent Maharashtra elections, for example, they came to power with two allies, the Shinde faction of the Shiv Sena and Ajit Pawar's NCP. But in other states, they have lost, like they just lost the Jharkhand election, for example. In the past, they have lost Karnataka, they have lost Telangana, they have lost Himachal, where Congress has come to power. Similarly, they lost West Bengal, where Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool rules. So the BJP is uncomfortable with that idea. They would have liked to sweep almost all the 30 states that we have today. In the past, when Congress was sweeping in 52, 57, 62, we had around about half the states, almost about, let's say, 16 states. In 1967, the fourth election, Congress had lost in about 8 of the state assembly elections in the north as well as in Tamil Nadu for the first time. But the 3 Lok Sabha elections, as I pointed out, 52, 57, and 62, Congress had managed to win. So the idea is essentially political. In fact, RJD leader Lalu Prasad Yadav gave one of the most pithy and brilliant criticism of the idea. He in a private interview to me, told me that, look, for 5 years, netas luto the public. If an election is held, the neta ends up paying to the public, through SOPs, through all kinds of welfare measures, this program, that program. But that only happens each time an election is about to be announced. You'll see, for example, take the Maharashtra assembly elections which just took place. The Shinde government, Shinde was the chief minister in the last NDA government, the last Mahayuti government. He ended up doing the Ladli Behna scheme, which apparently helped the Mahayuti to sweep the assembly elections in Maharashtra. Now, that's just an example. It's similar everywhere. In fact, even if you take the Jharkhand elections, the Hemant Soren government had also done several sort of welfare measures. They had done it a little before the election, but quite a few were announced right before. So this is done all the time in Indian elections. In fact, analysts call it, the political budget cycle or the political election cycle. As soon as there is a budget or a budget right before the election, you will have various SOPs that governments give. In fact, technically, they almost purchase the votes of the people. So this is a standard sort of practice, regardless of political parties. Of course, the BJP, which is in power in the center for more than 10 years, and as I pointed out, in half the states, has perfected the art of doing that. But the AAP government in Delhi, for example, does it. Immediately now the election of Delhi is going to be held, you find water bill has come down, electricity bill comes down, other things happen, this will be free, that will be free. So this is standard so the idea of Lalu, that after all, when netas come to power, they luto the people, right? They just tax them, they end up not doing any serious welfare. But the moment the elections are coming, they start spending on the people. That's a brilliant criticism and might sound a bit crude, but it is very, very real. But then there are other serious objections, and one of the biggest one is that you require a constitutional amendment of Article 83, which deals with the duration of Parliament for 5 years, Article 172, which deals with tenure of assemblies, or, again, the duration of assemblies, which is also for 5 years. And of course, after that, Article 83, which deals with duration of Parliament, Article 85, which deals with prorogation and dissolution of the Lok Sabha, and Article 172, tenure of assemblies, Article 174, prorogation and dissolution of assemblies. So in doing that, lot of lawyers point out that you're going to alter the basic structure of the constitution. And why is the basic framework of the constitution, which according to them should not be touched because you're weakening democracy. And why is that? One main reason is that if you're going to hold at one point of time simultaneous polls, then many of the state assemblies where people had selected the government for 5 years have to be dissolved before time. So technically, the mandate of the people is not being adhered to. Or, for example, suppose there is a no confidence motion against a particular government at one point of time, then you can't let assembly elections take place in the middle. Why? Because you will say, well, it should be held along with the Lok Sabha. So again, the mandate of the people will not be adhered to. So in a way, you are quashing the democratic spirit of the constitution. So that is their serious objection. And there has been a lot of debates on both sides. The question of money, as I said, money might be saved, although one objection is that so much of money is poured into election, never mind when it will happen. Once it is held, either simultaneously or separately, you will end up, spending an enormous amount of money in these elections. In fact, if we just do analysis of 2014 Lok Sabha election, there's an estimate that about 35,000 crores were spent alone in the Lok Sabha election, number one, which means each Lok Sabha constituency, 70 crore, each assembly constituency, 10 crore, and that number keeps doubling up in subsequent election. And mind you, this is just the Lok Sabha and the state assembly election. We are talking just the Lok Sabha election. Think of 30 state assembly election held simultaneously. We are talking about several 100,000 crores that are going to be spent at the same time. Finally, the election commission is not even able to hold two state assembly polls simultaneously. Look at what happened during, for example, Maharashtra and Jharkhand. Jharkhand is such a small state, two different dates. At the same time, Maharashtra, one, of course. Several states you will find, like UP, 3 or 4 different dates. Even during Lok Sabha, several phases. If the election commission doesn't have the capacity to hold one election on one day in a state assembly poll, how do you think will they be able to manage this mega poll all across the country in all the states and the Lok Sabha? So even if the idea might be appealing, it is totally unfeasible. And I am not the only one saying that. Several experts have pointed out, for example, Sundarman Sampath, former election commission, CEC, he had pointed out, similarly Subhas Kashyap, a parliamentary expert, he had pointed out, in fact, their suggestion was, let the BJP start by holding the Lok Sabha simultaneously with the state assembly elections where they rule. Let them start with that, set an example, and then maybe we will see if the rest of the country agrees. Right now, it is a political battle between the NDA, which wants to essentially impose it on the rest of the country, on the opposition, on the India bloc, and the India bloc is protesting, calling it an unconstitutional move, a move towards dictatorship, and their argument is that it will only facilitate Modi magic, which we have seen in 2014 and 2019. Now, of course, in 2024, that Modi magic didn't quite work. But the idea is that with the Modi magic, the BJP will try and win the state assembly polls that are held simultaneously. So that's where it stays. But again, by the next session of parliament, we will see reintroduction of this bill, and there will be another big debate on the subject. Thank you very much.